सत्पुरुष है, तह हंसन विश्राम।
VYGOS is Vihangam Yoga Global Online Satsang, which is scheduled every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Indian Standard Time. Those who would miss to attend the morning session can listen to the broadcast replay on Sunday evening at 4:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. The aim of this forum is to give the entire world an opportunity to learn the ancient science of meditation and benefit from this pious service inspired by Sadguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj, the pioneer of Vihangam Yoga. If you are interested in learning the technique or want to conduct a program at your place, and for any inquiry related to it, please feel free to write to us at info@vihangamyoga.org. That is info@vihangamyoga.org.
Ongoing support. Today, equipped with our global panel of speakers, we'll be going through something which we all think about at some point in our lives. The topic for today is witnessing the change you desire. Regardless of where you're from, the stage of life you're at, regardless of what you've achieved or are looking to achieve, we all have something which we want to change about ourselves. Whether it be aligning our routines with that of the sun, or achieving mastery in our chosen fields, each and every one of us is undergoing a journey through existence. And along this journey, whether consciously or subconsciously, we try to evolve and grow ourselves. We try to become aware of how to do better by the people around us and our lives at large. Today, equipped with our global panel, we'll be tackling this topic and this process of reflection, correction, and witnessing change. The topic, witness the change you desire. Today, joined by Hemantji from India, Shekharji from Australia, Sankalpji from India, and I myself am joining from Australia. My name is Abhinav. I do this every time. It's quite a comical part. We'll be going through this very important topic. Before we begin our journey, we'll stop towards the welcoming prayers, the Swadhagan and Mangalgan, and invoke the blessings of the Master of Vihangam Yoga on this auspicious occasion. So I'd now like to request the blessings to be invoked so that we can proceed further.
आज स्वागत नित्य गुरुवर संत शुभागम आइए, अध्यात्म विद्या दिव्य ज्योति सोमरस बरसाइए। दोष दुर्गुण दूर करके शुद्ध हंस बनाइए, भेद गम गति ज्ञान गर्जन शक्ति द्वार हटाइए। खुले द्वारा शब्द सागर भक्त जन अनवाइए, जन सदा फल विश्व शिक्षक शान आन बचाइए, शान आन बचाइए। विश्व शांति नाम मंगल परम गुरु को ध्याइए, वर्ग द्वंद्व शांति दूर कर भाव भेद मिटाइए। सार्वभौम का त्यात्मराज बनाइए। वेश भाषा भाव जगमय ज्ञान पर दर्शाइए। समृद्धि सुख शांति धरातल स्वर्ग भूमि बनाइए। विश्व शिक्षक जन सदा पर नीति स्वर अपनाइए। नीति स्वर अपनाइए।
Thank you for making those blessings for us. Now I'm ready to proceed with the session for today. With the blessings of the Master, we can now dive further. As always, if you have any questions or thoughts to share, we have two avenues available to you, which are coming onto your screen right now. There is a WhatsApp number, which is coming onto your screen just now. And just in a moment, a Slido URL, slido.com/VIJOS will be where you'll be able to ask any questions which you have. We begin our reflections on this very important topic with the recitation of Swarved, a set of divine verses composed by the master of Vihangam Yoga, Sadhguru Sadafaleji Maharaj. The Swarved is a distillation, a complete distillation of the knowledge of spirituality. As such, before we try our best to go into how we understand this topic and how we understand we can apply this topic to our own lives, we first go to the Master and seek his guidance. I'll now ask Shekharji to join us and take us through some verses, after which we'll proceed towards the main speech of the day from Hemantji.
Jai Sadgurudev, everybody. Today I'm going to read some of the verses from Sadhguru Sadafaldev Maharaj Swarved. As Abhinavji explained, Swarved is an encyclopedia of spirituality. I'm going to just cover a few verses from Canto 6 under Bhed Sar. धर्मा धर्म ही मन ही है, स्वर्ग नरक मन जान, बद मुक्ति भ्रम मन ही है, मन ही शत्रु अज्ञान। निज स्वरूप से भिन्न जो दौड़ जहाँ लगी जाए, सो सब धोखा मन ही का, मन ही जगत उपजाए. It is the mind that causes righteousness or otherwise. Heaven and hell are attained due to mind itself. Benedictory works are done if such a thought grows in the mind. The effect of such deeds is the attainment of heaven. When ill thoughts creep into the mind, the man starts doing evil deeds, resulting in hellish sufferings. The state of bondage is there due to ignorance, and freedom from it is the soul's state of liberation. In other words, being separated from the mind, the soul stands in its own pure form and thereafter attains the Lord and is liberated. As such, it is the mind that is the cause of ignorance and the enemy number one. The consciousness of the soul going away from it up to some extent is due to the burgling of the mind only. It is the mind that creates its own world, and only it makes the soul have contact with the world. When the soul separates its consciousness from the mind, it gets separated from the world as well. So, it is essential for practitioners to understand the mind and how the technique of separating themselves from it. मन निग्रह कैसे होवे, बिन आधार अभ्यास, जिमि खग उड़े आकाश में, बैठे मिल बलतार। मन शांति साधन कहो, कर एकांत में वार। सरिता तट जंगल गुहा, भोगन रहे निराश। How can the mind be controlled without yoga practice? For it, some practice will have to be done. The bird flies into the sky unsupported, but sits on some solid base, and only then it gets rest. Here, the Sadgurudev is pointing out the means for pacifying the mind. For it, the practitioner has to live being indifferent to worldly enjoyments on a river bank, in a forest, or in a cave. These verses are so important for any practitioner to understand. Whilst we are trying to achieve many things in life, but the importance of realizing that our failures and our distraction are directly linked to the mind, which deviates us from the path we have embarked upon. I will hand it over to Abhinavji, and so that the session can further discuss this topic. Jai Sadgurudev.
Thank you, Shekharji, for taking us through these divine verses of Swarved. It is important for us to understand the philosophy of Vihangam Yoga and why the philosophy of Sadhguru Siddhartha Devji Maharaj is so compelling. The journey of Sadhguru Siddhartha Devji Maharaj is that of a man who, in complete solitude and with an unparalleled focus on self and the universe, transformed the way in which many people lead their lives today. The Swarabit is a transcription of his journey from the soul to the universe and beyond. It encompasses the very depths of the topic which we are focused on today. The main concept we can take from these verses is that there is a source which is causing all distraction. There is a source which is making it difficult for us to embark upon a path of change. This is the main thing which the philosophy of Vihangam Yoga is telling us in these verses. I'd like to thank Shekharji once more for taking us through these verses. Now, we move towards the main part of the session today, which is the main speech by Hemantji. Before we dive into it, there are two avenues which we are providing in which you can ask us any questions which you have. Right, coming on your screen right now is a link to Slido, slido.com/VYGOS. And after that, we have a WhatsApp number as well, which is just on your screen now, as well as a Slido link. So if you have any questions or thoughts that you want to share with us, please do. We are here to speak with you, all of you listeners, and really dive into the thoughts which you all have, rather than just telling you what we think as well. So Hemantji will be joining us now. He is an associate professor at IIT Bombay in the Department of Earth Sciences. Formerly, he worked as a scientist at NASA Goddard at the Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland. And so he's had a very interesting journey through spirituality, through the world itself. So we're very privileged to have him today to speak about this topic of witnessing the change which you desire. So now I'd like to hand over to Hemantji, after which we'll proceed towards the further parts of our session.
Yes, good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for having me here, Abhinavji. It was a pleasure listening to Sekharji as well. I would offer my prayers to Lord Sadgurudev before I start. Bandhamevaha param guru jinayaha jnana pasar देव सदा फलयादि में जिनय शब्द उचार I'll welcome all the listeners across the globe. It's always a pleasure to share your own experience. Today, we have a very interesting topic. We want success. We live in a world where the success or the people's recognition is counted or recognized because of his success. We all deserve to be great. We all deserve to get more and definitely not settle for less. See, the creation did not falter or had any bias when they created us. For instance, an auto industry is manufacturing cars. And the speedometer says or mentions that the maximum speed that the car can go, for instance, it's 100 miles per hour. But when the car actually goes on the road, the car is driven at the speed of maybe 3 to 5 miles per hour, or at best 8 to 10 miles per hour. And some car zooms past us at great speeds. Do you think we are doing justice to ourselves or even to the manufacturer of the car? Of course not. We are driving the vehicle at a speed much less than what it was meant for or it was originally designed for. So who is to be blamed? The manufacturer or the owner? Of course, the owner, since he's behind the driving wheel. Some may even point finger to the road on which he's driving. You may argue that it was bad, so the speed was less. This applies to all of us. So where lies the problem? Dear friends, we are here to understand it. What is the problem and how to seek the solution to the problem? How can we overcome our own inhibitions, our own bottlenecks and hurdles that we have created for ourselves? And how do we witness the change that we desire and basically, or more importantly, we deserve that? The focus of today's lecture is not on what you want to become. Perhaps better than me, you know what you want to become, but will gravitate around how to become one, how to succeed, how to witness that change and transformation that will bring that success in you. I just remembered Harivansh Rai Bachchan once was talking to his son, Amitabh Bachchan, and we all know that great personality. Harivansh Rai Bachchan said, if we get what we desire for, it is good. But if we don't get it, it is even better. Since if we fail or falter, we work hard to find ways to find the problems. We investigate just the way a scientist works to look for solutions to the problem at hand. An engineer may delve deep inside the problems in the machines if something goes bad. Similarly, a doctor would try to understand the ailment of the patient. He would patiently listen to them and perhaps get some diagnosis done. And only then they hunt for the solutions. And dear friend, it applies to all of us in all our professions we are living. And no wonder Harivansh Rai Bachchan also quoted the poem whose title was Koshish Karne Walon ki Kabhi Haar Nahi Hoti. So, how do we understand the problem and more importantly, the source to the problem? The biggest or the root cause of all issues are, first, the misalignment of our thoughts and words, and finally our actions. What we say in a real world is not aligned with our actions and the practice. Our thought process itself is scattered. We tend to get distracted too often, which loses our focus. We lose track of things that we started to seek in the beginning. The positive outlook also is missing. The attitude that we should have towards our goal, to our aims and ambitions, is also missing. Our mind is not stable, it's not controlled. It jumps around too much. The other problem is that we don't seek our guidance. We don't talk to our counselors. We don't talk to our parents. See, we live in a world which is digitally transformed. There's no dearth of information. It's not that we don't have information. On the contrary, we are flooded and bombarded with information. We have formulas for success. But the problem is that there is a lot of information and we are drowned in it. And that also is a problem. We are not able to focus on one thing. Only other day, actually, yesterday I was in Hyderabad and I was talking to the director of a very prominent institute of India. And after our own technical discussions, he started talking about his own son who had done engineering and he was in IT. But the problem was not of his engineering or IT background. The problem he was facing that his son wanted to do so many things and he was not able to settle on one because he was constantly getting information from the internet world, and perhaps his peers were doing something else and he wanted to do something else. So we keep jumping and we are not able to focus. In fact, the distractions are just too much. So let us talk about or focus on how to achieve or witness the change we deserve. I'll raise some questions and I'll try to find solutions as we progress. First thing, how do we align our thoughts? How do we assimilate information and extract the wisdom that is meant for us? How do we concentrate and focus and not get distracted? How do we transform our thoughts into actions, which is the most important? Another important point is, how do we break the shackles of our own cocoon, our thought we have weaved around us? And how do we move on from no success to that of success? And trust me, dear friends, it applies to an average person. We don't have to be born great. It's your deeds, it's your work hard, it's your perseverance that actually pays off in the long run. So let's now talk about the solution to this the questions that I just raised. So first question was, how do we align our thoughts? The root cause is the lack of understanding the source of all thought process that happens in you. You're listening to me, you're getting information from the world and you're assimilating. You're compiling it just like a processor does it for a system. This happens in our own body in the word called mind. Mind is the most important entity in your body. Mind first gets connected with you first, who basically is the source of all the energy, the soul, and then interacts with the sensory organs of your body and organs of action, and then interacts with the world. And that's the reason why you are getting information from the world, which we say knowledge, and we also take action in this world when we interact with the world. Now, if the mind is controlled or uncontrolled or unsettled, just like the surface of water, if it's not steady, then our thought process keeps jumping from one point or from one topic to the next one. For this, the Vihangam Yoga technique of controlling the mind, the very first process, is a blessing to the humanity. It has been perfected by His Holiness Sadguru Shadafal Devji Maharaj. Sitting in a cave for 17 long years, he has perfected the technique to control the mind. We all have done this experiment in our childhood, where we put paper in front of the sun. It warms up, but it doesn't burn. But what happens if you bring a focal lens? The scattered energy of the sun get concentrated at one point and the paper starts burning. That is the power of Vihangam Yoga technique. And that would help us to align our thought. And that also helps us to get the focus, concentration, and how not to get distracted. The second point was how to get more knowledge. Of course, by reading, you can talk to peers, getting advice from those whom you count on, particularly when you had problems. I've had problems when when I started practicing meditation. I was not getting the desired result which I was working hard for. I looked on to my parents at that moment. So whenever you get into problem, whom do you look upon? Of course, someone who gives you an unbiased, critical assessment about you. That's more important. An unbiased advice. Your decisions should be based on the knowledge you thus acquire. My parents asked me, how have you been practicing? Are you following all the techniques in the right way, with right ethics? And of course, I was honest to him, and I told what was happening when I was practicing meditation, whether I was honest to myself or not. And of course, with time, I saw that with with dedication and with honesty, when you reinvent yourself, you restart working towards the problem, the solutions is right there in front of you. It's just that it's not visible at that moment. Swamiji says it is the mind that needs to be controlled. Sadguru Shadafal Devji Maharaj writes in Swarved, Mana udat le surati ko, bahar drishya pasar. जीव भूले निज रूप को भटकी रहे संसार. It's the mind that takes all your energy and keeps you occupied in the worldly activities. You need to concentrate, you need to control that energy. The reason why the car has been driven at that speed of 3 to 5 kilometers per hour or miles per hour, it's just the speed of a walking or basically a cycle or a bicycle that's been driven very slowly. So how to enhance yourself, how to evolve, how not to lose track of things, how can you do things faster? It's all hidden in your mind. The constant chit chat that creates tension, depression, anxiety inside you is also because of the mind. The other point I raised was how to transform our thoughts into action. The first point here I want to make here, dear friends, is with self-discipline. We need to discipline our mind and take appropriate actions. We should stop postponing things. We need to follow a routine and practice it. See, since morning till evening before we go to bed, everything, right from your breakfast, your food habits, your work hours, everything is set in a routine. Similarly, if you want to put your thoughts into action, we need to have a self-disciplined life. And finally, and the most important, never, never, never give up. Run towards your dream and chase it. See, it's easy to blame someone, to your family, to your friends, to the environment perhaps you are living with, to the situations you were put into. It's easy to find an excuse. Dear friends, it's time to take the ownership of your action. Be responsible. Face the criticism, because that's where your success is hidden. When I was talking to my parents, my father asked only one thing. Have you been practicing Vihangam Yoga technique regularly, with diligence, morning and evening, 10 minutes only? Are you doing it? That's all it takes. That's all the investment it takes. I owned up and I said, no, I wasn't. I used to waste too much of my time in doing something which was not useful to me. Purposeless things. So I owned up and then I restarted working on that. And of course, with time, it all paid off. The other thing which I also want to bring here is be smart and learn to adapt to the changes. Don't lose any opportunity to learn and update yourself. So, how do we finally witness the change we seek and deserve and desire? Learn Vihangam Yoga technique and practice it. See, the transformation may not be apparent. It may appear very slow to you, but it's definitely happening. See, the metamorphosis our egg undergoes from egg to caterpillar to pupa, and before the butterfly flies out of it. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, right? Today, if you want to sow the seed, it doesn't grow into a full tree the next day, right? We need to wait. We need to be patient before you reap the harvest, before you get the fruits of your actions. Seed sown will give fruits with time only. Never sit. Keep learning. Apply the knowledge which you have gained from your masters. Aswathama once walked up to his father, Guru Dronacharya, and asks, I also have all the knowledge which Arjuna has. But why do you always rate Arjuna as your best disciple? He said, I'll just show you in an instant. At that instant, Guru Dronacharya started teaching something to Aswathama. And Arjuna was playing with all her brothers far off. At that moment, while he was playing, he looked towards his guru. And what he saw, that his guru was teaching something to disciple son Aswathama. Arjuna immediately came up and stood beside his guru. His guru asked, why are you here? Why are you not playing with your friends and your brothers? He said, when Guru is teaching, I should always be with the Guru at that moment. That time cannot be for playing. I will get all the time in the world to play later on. And then, of course, he sat down and started learning with Aswathama. And of course, with time, Arjuna also acquired more powers, more divine powers, just based on the knowledge which he acquired during his Gurukul time. So Vihangam Yoga comes with a technique that helps you to control the mind. It helps you to control the wavery nature of the mind. But that's not where the journey ends. It's the beginning. It's the start. The rocket has just taken off. It's going to propel up and it's going to accelerate. With mind control, you can nearly conquer the entire world. If you can conquer yourself, your thoughts and actions, you're going to do wonders in this world. And last but not the least, before I conclude, Vihangam Yoga also talks about the holistic development. Dear friends, we just don't want material success in our world. It's not just about the professional development, which we all aspire and we crave for and we are anyway achieving. But we also need spiritual growth. We need to be free from stress, tension, depression, anxiety. There have been a lot of Vihangam Yoga practitioners and there have been a lot of medical researches that have been done, which proves that stress and depression are kept at bay. We don't even talk about here at Vihangam Yoga. Why? Because the moment the mind is controlled, you see that transformation, that change that happens within you. Vihangam Yoga connects you with your inner world, with your inner self, which is more important. Why? Because all of your decisions which you take since morning till evening, all happens from within. So you need to have a strong within, a strong self, and that comes with the strong mind, and that comes with the Vihangam Yoga technique of meditation. Swamiji says in Swarved, मैं उत्तम ऐसा बनूं जैसा हो या न कोई, नहीं भूत वर्तमान में, नहीं भविष्य जग सोई. So with that, I would want to conclude here, and thank you very much for patience listening. Over to you, Abhinavji.
Thank you so much, Hemaji, for sharing your reflection on this very important topic. You know, Hemaji raised so many important points just then, which even as a listener on my end, I relate to a lot. And we'll be going through some of these in the upcoming Q&A session, where I'll be trying to dig further into some of the things which Hemaji raised and talked about. For the next part of our session, before we move towards the Q&A, we'll be joined by Sankalpji from India, and he'll be sharing with us a bhajan related to this very topic. Before I hand over to him, if you do have any questions, slido.com/VOGOS, the URL on your screen, is one great place where we're collecting all the questions which all of you wonderful listeners have. There's also our WhatsApp number, which is coming up on the screen just now. So please, if you have any questions, any concerns, any thoughts which you want to share with us, please do dive in there and chuck in anything which you'd like for us to talk about. I'll hand over now to Sankalpji to present us with the bhajan, after which I'll be digging further into this topic with Hemantji.
Thank you, Abhinavji. Jai Sadgurudev to all. So today's bhajan is taken from Sabd Prakash. So here is the bhajan now. भगवान शरण हूँ तेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा। कैसे आराधो तो ही प्रभु जानिए जन्मों ही, प्रभु जानिए जन्मों ही। चंदन चढ़ाऊं कैसे, शिर व्यात नाही ऐसे, पुष्प माल देव जो ही, उर कंठ नाही तो ही। भगवान शरण हूँ तेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा। अणु के विकास तेरा, रवि चंद्र है घनेरा। परदीप क्या दिखाऊं, मैं आज्ञा बन लजाऊं। भगवान शरण हूँ तेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा। सारे विश्व के हो भरता, क्या भोग देऊं नरता। स्वर शब्द से तो ही भाऊं, घड़ी शंख क्या बजाऊं। भगवान शरण हूँ तेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा। बाएं दाहिने स्वामी तू ही, पीछे आग्र में हो तू ही। अर्ध ऊर्ध देश तो ही, विभु मध्य में हो तो ही। भगवान शरण हूँ तेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा। सर्वांग देश माही, अनुदेश जहाँ नाही।
किस देश हाथ लाऊं, तो ही शेर कैसे नाऊं। भगवान शरण हूँ तेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा। मन बुद्धि तो ही न जाने, तप बांग क्या तुमाने। क्या गगन पावलाऊं, अनहद क्या बजाऊं। भगवान शरण हूँ तेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा। के ही भांते तो ही रिझाऊं, कोई युक्ति नाही पाऊं। सदा फल आश तेरा, प्रभु ले हो सोधि मेरा। भगवान शरण हूँ तेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा, कोई दूसरा न मेरा। सदगुरुदेव की जय। Over to you, Abhinavji.
Thank you very much, Sankalpji. Every time you join us, it feels like I'm getting goosebumps. Thank you so much for sharing that beautiful bhajan with us. The essence of this bhajan is very deep and very sacred. Here, the seeker is offering in the feet of their master a pledge for guidance and a pledge and a promise for being a willing disciple. Because the infinity of experience, the infinity of living in this world is so vast that without guidance, the seeker is saying they don't know what to do, they don't know where to go. And in this bhajan, the seeker finally says, I can only go anywhere if I'm in your feet. So thank you again, Sankalpji, for sharing this bhajan with us. And now we move toward an exciting part of our session where we will be going through some of the questions which you wonderful listeners have and really starting to dig further into some of the points which Heymanji raised earlier. So I hope you can hear my voice well, Heymanji.
Yeah, very much. Thank you, Abhinavji.
Awesome. So Heymanji, you raised a lot of very important points during your session for which we're very thankful. I'll be trying to go through some of these and really also understand your personal take and your personal journey in thinking through something as important as this in your own personal life. So, just kind of just the start. While we were listening to your speech, you mentioned there were points in time where you weren't able to sustain your practice of meditation, and when you would start again, you'd start to see some changes in your life. I was wondering, in controlling your mind, what kind of personal positive changes have you seen? What kind of things have you witnessed, which you could kind of give us an example of or share with us so that we could be even more kind of inspired to take this further?
Yeah, thank you very much. And of course, the journey has been very inspirational. It has now been 25 years into Vihangam Yoga meditation. Now I'm talking about when I learned this technique, my age was around 18 years old. And something happened and I got into this meditation. My father was already practicing it for previous few months prior to that. And but I was living far away from another city, in another small place rented out, and you were all alone with your own world, with your friends around you. So you can understand the kind of lifestyle you would have the age of 18 with you're living far off from your parents. So I learned this technique, I started practicing it. 2 months went by, 4 months went by, 5 months went by, weeks after weeks, and I did not see any change. Nothing practically happened in me at all. I used to listen to people who had to say good things about meditation. He used to share many things that was happening to them. And of course, I had never experienced any, so I didn't knew what was happening to them. Only thing is that they were very happy about practicing it and getting that positive change. So it was for me, it was time to take a decision. I invested 5 months in it and I thought, okay, let's give up. People talk about big things, but I believe it's not big. It's all metaphysical, and perhaps it's not in reality. Or instead of giving up, you may want to reinvestigate and look for the problem. I chose the other one. Back then, there was just one phone on a landline. I called my dad, and dad asked me only a couple of things over the phone. Have you been practicing meditation morning and evening every day without fail? I said no. Second, did you ever miss your meals during that time? I said no. I used to take meals regularly. Then why did you ever thought to give up the practices? Why weren't you serious enough to do it diligently every morning and evening? Second thing, if possible, the morning meditation should be done before dawn or early in the morning. The first thing, when the environment is very serene, peaceful, when you actually get the maximum benefits from meditation. And then he called me, how much time have you already spent? I said 4 to 5 months perhaps. He said, give another 6 months. And then if it doesn't work, give up. But do call me and tell me what happened. I hung up the phone. I went back. The first problem was how to get up early in the morning. My father had said you can buy an alarm clock. I didn't do that. I had a photo of Swamiji on my desk in my room. I just told the photo of Swamiji, why don't you wake me up at 3 a.m. in the morning when the time of Brahmot starts? Dot at 3, I was there wide and awake and ready for meditation. Of course, I didn't know what was happening. I just sat there, followed the methodology that I was taught with diligence, and after 10 minutes of meditation, I went back to sleep. I told Swamiji's photograph every day to wake me up at 3. By that time, my biological clock had set in, and I was getting up every day at sharp at 3. I didn't have to wait for another 6 months. Trust me, friends, sometimes things are about to happen. You just give up just at the last moment when things are just about to happen. Something like the avalanche. You just need a small speck. It rolls down the mountain, and with time it gathers momentum and an avalanche happens. Within a couple of months, things starts happening. We are not going to talk about the experience you would get in spirituality, but some transformations and change started happening. And I was not the witness to that. The first witness came from my friends who saw me something happening within me. And first instance when I experienced myself was when I was sitting in an examination hall. I forgot the question forgot an answer to a question. That was something in atomic physics. During the exam, when I was still hunting for the solution, I was trying to think what was the solution to the problem. My eyes got closed. I went to that book where the answer was written instantly. Something took me there. And I could recall it. I could see the answer in front of me, and I could just write it down word by word, page by page. Next thing happened, another question in another paper where some tricks were there. And many of my friends were not able to see that trick in that question. Somehow I could see that very easily. And when I was chatting this with my friend asked me, "Did you attempt that question?" I said, Yes, I did that." Said, could you find the solution to that problem?" I said, "Yes, I could find the solution to the problem. If you can see through the professor's mind, you can actually see the trick that lies in that question, and you would be able to solve it." And he just asked me what was the trick, and I just told him. The problem is that the meditation was already working in me. I just had to be patient, and it started happening with me with time. And I saw that change, and my marks and the marks prior to that was just average marks I used to score. It was always 50-60%, nothing beyond that. And then it jumped beyond 80 the very next semester. So things change. You work hard, definitely you work hard, your efforts goes in, but in the right direction. You don't have to invest too much, but it should be in the right direction. And then the power of guru is also with you, but it only works with someone who is honest and is ready to take that. So that's where my journey started in Vihangam Yoga. So for this I want to share that. Thank you. Over to you, Vinayji.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hemant. That's very particular and distinct, that journey, and I think we can all learn a lot from it. I actually it really brings up a couple more questions in my mind as I'm listening. Like, you went through this process of skepticism, and in hindsight, how do you feel about that process? Do you feel like you spent too much time on it? Do you feel like it was very important? In hindsight, do you think it was worth it being skeptical? What do you feel about it?
About the technique itself or about
Yeah,
the process?
about both. So the
Yeah.
technique, process.
Correct. Yeah, actually, this applies to practically all of us. We all, for instance, we have so many examples from real world. We all want to follow certain things. Let's say we want to lose weight, or we want to adapt to a new practice, or we want to inculcate or imbibe new things in your life. You want to add that in part of your life. We start with full enthusiasm, with zeal, and if it doesn't work in the beginning, you tend to give up, and that's what many people do. And that's what delineates between people who actually achieve success and someone who fails. The one thing that has always helped mankind since ages: never ever give up. See, if a technique doesn't work, there are only two outcomes. Either the technique is at fallacy, because there's definitely a chance, or you could be at fallacy. You could be doing something which you ought to have been doing, and you have not been practicing the way it was prescribed for. Now, the first part, where the technique was at fallacy or not, see, Sadhguru Shadafal Devji Maharaj never been to school. He got a master, and he perfected this technique in a cave under the guidance of that eternal master, the eternal Sadhguru. He achieved it, and then he made this technique simple enough to be followed by persons of the world, for the humanity, for the betterment of the humanity, for the upliftment. And second thing was, I asked my dad, "Are you getting any benefits from this? Are you getting any experience? What have you achieved?" He said that, "Don't even ask me that." I got into second stage of Vihangam Yoga meditation within the first 3 months of meditation. Sadhguru Shadafal Devji Maharaj appeared in his dream for half an hour. Told him, "Why are you practicing one? I'll initiate into the second." And he taught him the technique, and then he vanished. And the next day he woke up, and while he was practicing take second level, he was already experiencing the third. Of course, he told me this later on, but he just gave me a glimpse over the phone. I got inspiration from him. Because if it works for my dad, and he was giving his unbiased advice to me, I should at least give it one more try. Instead of giving up, which is easy to do, it's easy to blame. You can always find an excuse, perhaps to the environment, with your friends. You can always find something or the other. But on the contrary, if you can just don't give up and you just stick to, adhere to the guidelines of the methodology once again, how much time you need to investigate? Just 10 more minutes. How much time you've already invested? 4-5 months. What's harm in investing 6 months? Dad said, do it for me if you don't want to do it for anyone else. You can surely do that for your loved ones. And I did that. And it paid off. So in hindsight, I felt that I had that skepticism, but that doubt, the root cause is the mind itself. See, in Vihangam Yoga meditation, we try to control the mind itself. Until this date, the mind has been living like a vagabond, like scot-free. Someone who is walking free, and you want to put him, imprison him, he won't like it, right? He doesn't want to be confined in a small cage or a prison. Here you are trying to control a mind who had been living like a vagabond, free person. So mind finds an excuse. And as one of our friends in US, Mr. Vijay Davluriji always mentions that mind actually works overtime to find an excuse for you. You work hard for only 10 minutes morning and evening, but this guy is working the entire day to find an excuse for you, how not to or how prevent you from doing the meditation the following day. So you can always have a skepticism. Mind always finds an excuse for you, but trust me, it's only within the mind. It's not your decision, it's your mind's decision. If you want to see the color of your room, which is white in color, but with glasses of different colors, I'm sure you're going to see different colors in the room. Why? Because we have put glasses, and that glasses is your thoughts, your world of thoughts, which has been created by the mind. Get rid of the mind. And no wonder all the scriptures of the world, all the great masters of all philosophies, of all school of thoughts, has advocated time and again, please control the mind. Man changa to kathauti mein Ganga, Sant Ravidas ji says. Man ke hare hare hai, man ke jeete jeet. If you lose the battle with the mind, you have lost the battle. Till the time you are in the battlefield, you're still practicing, you're still giving it another try, you're still in the battlefield. And only someone who is in the battlefield has a chance of win or loss. Anyway, if you give up, you are at loss. So even in spite of skepticism, I hung on to it. And of course, the inspiration comes. And of course, the master, the guru, and also on the top, the Almighty, they are all watching you. You are being watched all the time. Keep in mind, you are being watched all the time. What are you doing? Do you give up or you hung on to it? And we have many examples from our real world where people have not given up. And they have succeeded in their life. They have just persevered. They have just sustained. They have kept their attitude of never giving up. And that pays off at the end. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Abhinavji. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Hemantji. So we're coming towards the end of our session. So I'll first of all thank Hemantji for joining us again today. Thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts. I'll now ask for the satsang, the shanti part of the satsang to be invoked. And after that, we'll do a quick wrap up and move towards the end of our session. So just requesting once more for the shanti part to be invoked, after which we can move towards a wrap up of our session. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. So let's just wrap up here for today. There's 2 data points which really come to mind. It's measured that we have thousands of thoughts a day and we take in gigabytes of information. How can we exist in peace? The mind is taking us everywhere.
शिष्य शांति हो, सत्य शांति हो, शांति हे प्रभु शांति स्वरूप हो, शांति शांतिमय शांति, शांति शांति जन शांति हो, पूर्ण शांतिमय शांति। हे प्रभु शांति प्रदान कर, दूर हो सर्व अशांति। देव सदा फल शांति में, शांति शांति सुख शांति। हे प्रभु शांति प्रदान कर, दूर हो सर्व अशांति। देव सदा फल शांति में, शांति शांति सुख शांति।
Feedback if you have any on how we're doing overall. As I was saying, we have a lot of things taking us everywhere. And the question is, do we want to go everywhere? The message of Eastern philosophy, the message of Vihangam Yoga is crystal clear and simple. You don't want to go everywhere. You want to be in control. And to start that process, you have to control. Whether it be procrastination, material desire, whether it be anything which is taking you anywhere, you must control the mind in order to evolve and grow. With that, we end our session for today. Thank you all for joining us and see you next week.